Oh, hey there. Don't mind me. I'm just playing Spider-Man Web of Shadows. God, this game is incredible, but I've played it so many times already. I wonder if there's gonna be a new one coming out soon. Let's check it out. Whoa, a new game? Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions? I wonder what that's about. Let's check it out.
Somehow I know I'm not the only one.
Oh my god. 4 Spider-Man? This is gonna be the greatest game of all time.
We all have those games that bring us to our childhood for whatever reason. Many people's comfort childhood game was maybe Super Mario 64, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. I know for me, those classic humongous entertainment games are definitely some of my childhood favorite games. I remember Pajama Sam and Spy Fox as a kid, and when I saw that they were coming to the Switch, I had a memory unlocked. For my older brother, his childhood game, his favorite game, was Sly Cooper. The original Sly Cooper trilogy was incredible. I think my personal favorites were 1 and 3 from the OG trilogy, but I think the 4th is just my favorite in the entire saga. These were the stealth games that were the unsung gems on the PlayStation. Why do we have Ratchet and Clank, Spyro, and Crash, but we can't get any love for Sly Cooper? A sequel came out 8 years after the 3rd game, and we were supposed to get a movie. Like, do you remember this?
Everybody be cool. I'm on it.
This was incredible! But why do a movie for Sly Cooper that would clearly do amazing and just give all that time and energy to Uncharted? At the time, Sly Cooper had like the best gameplay, the best cast, and easily the best presentation for a game. Well, on PlayStation. That goes to Halo, which is getting a show that doesn't look that good, but I'm cautiously optimistic. One of my favorite games growing up, my childhood classic, was Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. Shattered Dimensions came off the heels of the much-loved Web of Shadows. With the announcement of Shattered Dimensions though, that was basically the confirmation we weren't getting Web of Shadows 2. We went from this open-world sandbox to a more linear level-based title. Imagine going from Super Mario Odyssey to Super Mario 3D World. Oh, we did. The trailer for Shattered Dimensions is really dope too. It looks like a Spider-Man noir solo stealth game at first, then it transitions to the Amazing Spider-Man. It leaves off a cliffhanger, but come on, would it really be anyone else other than Ultimate or 2099? And this was long before Spider-Verse. We didn't have Spider-Gwen, we didn't have Miles Morales, and we didn't have Aunt May's Spider-Man. And with all of that being said, I gotta talk about one of my favorite games growing up. The game I would race home to play after school. The game that I felt only I played and nobody else. Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions.
See what I can do now? I am so impressed. I've never seen anyone start a truck before.
One thing that I always loved about Shattered Dimensions was how every universe looked, felt, and sounded so different from one another. I think the only things that are consistent between the realities is the sound of you jumping and you shooting your webs. Other than that, they're all unique to their own worlds. This was Into the Spider-Verse before Into the Spider-Verse was ever conceived. Yes, I know that there are Spider-Verse comics. I read the first batch of them, and I'll be honest, they're kind of stupid. You're better off reading something like Spider-Men instead. Those comics are like on another level, dude. And speaking of comics, all of the cutscenes are basically just moving panels. I both like this, yet I find it a little annoying. Some of the same assets are used, but you could coin that to just being the essence of Spider-Man, but like, you really couldn't have showed out a bit more dough for real cutscenes? They thankfully have Stan the Man Lee narrate between each act to make this feel as much like a comic as possible.
But they're not done yet. Remember, there's still a damsel in distress. So what are you waiting for, heroes? Hop to it!
Going back to the art styles though, The Amazing has this grainy comic book look that feels really warm and welcoming with all the sand and dirt everywhere. It feels like a general understanding of what Spider-Man is. Then we have the Ultimate Universe, which is outlined like the comics that Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Bagley helped create and popularize, and Steve Buccellato colored in. It's saturated and bright, and it takes me back to those comics I had read as a kid. The 2099 universe has a sleek, futuristic look that's inspired by Blade Runner and Tron. This is what everyone in the 90s thought that the future would look like, and it's extremely stylized, sleek, and honestly really impressive that they did this in a 2010 kind of budget game too. There's holograms, bright lights, random sound bites, and hovercars all over this frantic futuristic fantasy. Then there's the noir dimension, which is weirdly my favorite to look at. It's got this simplistic, gothic, noir art style.
No
and it's beautiful. The simple line work with the scarce source of lighting from windows and zeppelins makes you appreciate the use of colors because there's so little here. But it's done artistically. It's not like how everyone complains that the Marvel movies are like this gray, muddy concrete. The most colors you're gonna see are like those classic yellow street lights or like a little bit of red lighting on your enemy suits. Each level has such a striking and unique look, and I wish there was a level for each Spider-Man to just swing across because of how eye-catching everything is. Yeah, don't get me wrong, Insomniac's Spider-Man is a beautifully crafted world, especially on the PS5, but they don't have much style. It's just the realistic graphics, and I feel like they get lost in the void of a lot of modern gaming. Having an actual art direction is such a nice change of pace. I don't really like, though, that you kind of need to use the Spidey sense in order to see where unlockables are, where the main goal is located, or your enemy's health. It makes more sense to use it than not, but it just kind of sucks because you can't see these incredible worlds that Beenox designed. It's also kind of distracting when this game has a good amount of glitches in it too. You'll get stuck under the geometry, on enemies, but that's really the extent of it. On the Carnage level though, you can actually unlock a challenge from the Web of Destiny by glitching, so at least it's pretty funny. The level was just kind of buggy. Fighting Carnage, you would always go underneath the geometry more often than not, but thankfully it didn't break the immersion. It was just more funny than anything. Another problem I think I have with the overall art direction is a lot of the voice cast just does not fit here. They got classic Spider-Man voice actors to play the titular characters. You got Dan Gilvezan from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends voicing 2099. You got Christopher Daniel Barnes from the Spider-Man animated series voicing Noir. Mwah. Mwah, 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 mwah. Barney Stinson himself from Spider-Man, the new animated series voicing the Amazing Spider-Man. No, not that one. And the undisputed GOAT, Josh Keaton himself, this hunk of a man from the Spectacular Spider-Man, voicing the Ultimate version perfectly. Easily my favorite Spider-Man voice, my favorite Spider-Man show, and my favorite Spider-Man comics. The stars really align, don't they? But going back to my main point about this, Christopher Daniel Barnes and Josh Keaton definitely do the best here, but Neil Patrick Harris and Dan Gilvezan just don't fit in these roles. Neil is of course great in the new animated series, and Dan does a good job at the series that he voiced in, but Neil just has this one upbeat note for every line of dialogue he records. There's no variation, and Dan doesn't fit Miguel at all.
What now? I can't give the final tablet piece to Mysterio, but if I don't, it's lights out for Madam Web. Think, Spidey, think.
Old? Hey, I'm from the future. To me, all you guys are ancient history.
Some guys never learn. And speaking of learning, you should learn how to count. Something tells me you're outnumbered.
Pal, you got... Shut!
So yeah, while each universe looks and sounds different, do they play different?
Yes, but actually no.
So there's a bit of inconsistency here. Let's start off with the main hero of Earth 616.
The terrifying, the deadly, the amazing Spider-Man!
He is incredibly plain. You could tell he listens to Dave Matthews Band in his free time, his favorite Greek yogurt flavor is plain, and he has never seasoned his chicken before. Now, he isn't boring, but the only thing of note about him is how his combat is more web-based. He takes chunks off the ground with him to take down enemies, and it's incredibly stylized. It looks exactly like the thing that you should find in a comic book game. The Noir might be the most bare bones when it comes to combat, but that's because he's all about stealth. It challenges you to keep yourself to the shadows, because if you're spotted, good luck trying to knock out any enemies. It's challenging, and it makes the stealth a lot more fun here, and in some respects, even better than the Arkham series. The Arkham games are still goated though, do not think otherwise. The 2099 is extremely fast. You have your accelerated vision by pressing the left bumper that's similar to what he does in the comics, which slows everything down around you, and you can just go the f off on enemies. Then the Ultimate Universe is kind of a more exaggerated version of the Amazing Spider-Man's web-based combat, but you use the symbiote's tendrils. You have your rage mode by pressing that left bumper that just wipes out everything in your path. And as long as you have your cannon fodder, you can keep this up for a very long time. When I first had this game, I think I kept it going for like 10 minutes at one point, and honestly, I'm pretty proud of that. There's also challenges in this thing called the Web of Destiny that 1, incentivize replay value, and 2, add a great level of challenge. Collect all the spider emblems, knock out as many enemies before a roof caves in, swing X amount of times before getting caught. It's kind of dumb, but I thought that these added a ton of fun to the experience. It makes this feel like a classic platformer collectathon like Super Mario 64, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, and it makes you want to complete the Web of Destiny. And with the amount of challenges you unlock, you gain access to upgrades or suits. I think my biggest problem with Shattered Dimensions is just it feels like it holds your hand so much and everything feels so limiting. It feels like you have to play the way Beanox wants you to play, not the way that you want to play. Like, let's just look again at Insomniac Spider-Man. If you go on the subreddit, you could see some crazy shit that people are doing. And you could tell that they're the ones discovering it, or they found out through word of mouth. It's not like the game explicitly tells you, hey, you could do this. They just discovered it. It's like Beanox gives you a small box of Legos and say, hey, build this car this exact way. Insomniac, on the other hand, is taking you to the Lego store, letting you pick whatever sets you want to build, and then you end up building yourself a Spartan armor. The gameplay here is also extremely tedious and repetitive. When you first start off, each level's around 30 minutes, then once you get closer to the end, it's more around 45 minutes to an hour. And once I hit Act 3, I could only do like one level at a time before turning off my Xbox. I can only hit X or go down the same corridor for so long. I feel like I could play this game completely blindfolded and my only guide is my friend telling me where to go and I have no issue at all. You're basically doing the same mission over and 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 over again. I can tell this is why I love the Noir missions so much. They're the only ones that really stand out. They were the only levels with actual real challenge and the ones that made me even think a little bit. Because using my last few brain cells hurts. I think one of the main standouts to Shattered Dimensions are when you encounter boss fights and you're put in a first-person mode, using the analog sticks as your fists in order to take down your enemies, and no other game's really done this. In the Beanox Spider-Man games, whenever you die, you are put in that first-person perspective as well, but this is the farthest we ever go with it. The closest that we do get to Spider-Man, other than the VR game, is an Amazing Spider-Man when you're so close to the camera.
And like the great cats, I shall play with my prey.
So of course, with each Spider-Man playing differently, their levels are going to be designed with different philosophies in mind. In The Amazing, it's just a basic beat-em-up action, nothing really out of the box, but it's still really fun. Ultimate is more or less the same, but you get more of these open-ended worlds like the Deadpool level that allows you a ton of freedom. The 2099 universe kind of has this, but you have these free-fall segments that I personally really liked. No one else really likes them but me, I think. It's also the most fast-paced it feels, like you're constantly on the edge of your seat. Just like 2099 and Amazing are on the edge of time. Your boos mean nothing to me. I see what makes you cheer. The Noir Dimension prioritizes stealth first and foremost, so these are definitely the major standout. Yeah, it's comparable to the stealth in the Arkham series, but I don't know, dude. Arkham Asylum released in 2009. This came out in 2010. I don't think Beanox really copied Rocksteady. Game development is not that quick. I gotta say, some of the levels on the hard difficulty are pretty damn difficult in all honesty. The Sandman and the Scorpion levels have these segments where you gotta kill these villain spawn creatures that are gonna kill innocent NPCs just trying to do their job, so you gotta protect them, and it is so f***ing irritating sometimes. But even so, I like it. It's not just an easy beat 'em up. I also encountered this funny glitch where I got stuck on this one guard and I couldn't take any damage, so I couldn't be killed, and I couldn't be knocked back, getting me out of the glitch, so I just had to restart from the checkpoint. I've restarted the checkpoint? Why is my life so hard? Please donate to my GoFundMe. I need 1 Bitcoin a day minimum. I said earlier that this was more of a linear level-based game akin to something like Super Mario 3D World instead of an open-world adventure like Super Mario Odyssey, and it definitely has its pros and cons. The levels are set to a T, and the pacing is very well timed, but it also feels like you can't create your own fun here like you can in other Spider-Man games. All of the villains want the fragments because, I don't know, villainous reasons, I guess. It makes them really strong. You basically fight them once without the fragment and one last time with the fragment. And there isn't much difference between the two encounters. Yeah, they're a little harder, but you're going to be going through the same methods over again just to take them out. One thing I really like is that after the tutorial and the first level against Kraven, each level in the act completely opens up to you. You can take on any level in any way you want. For as linear and restrictive as a lot of these levels are, I love the freedom of choice in which levels you want to play.
The Tablet of Order and Chaos. Selling you on the black market is gonna make me a mint.
Good, you can use a mint. Oof, I can smell your breath from here.
Spider-Man!
Wait, how would you eat a mint through that fishbowl?
So as cool as it is having 4 different Spider-Men in one game, we have to understand why we have 4 different Spider-Men in one game. The main Spider-Man that we all know and love, the Amazing Spider-Man, finds Mysterio breaking into a museum late at night, and it's narrated by Stan Lee, so the big plus, chef's kiss. 10 stars.
Who or what prowls the halls of Empire State University after dark?
But while trying to stop Mysterio, Spider-Man accidentally breaks the MacGuffin here, the Tablet of Order and Chaos. After it's shattered, Madam Web lets you know that they've spread across the entire multiverse. If I had a nickel for every time Mysterio was responsible for breaking the multiverse, I mean, I'd have 2 nickels, but it's really strange that it happened twice. This gives us a sneak peek to the different Spider-Man that we'll be playing as. There's 2099, a Spider-Man from the year of the future 2099, where it's no longer Peter Parker, but Miguel O'Hara, a scientist at Alchemax, which is basically the future Oscorp. We then have the other Peter Parkers with the Ultimate and the Noir universe. Noir is a Spider-Man in the Great Depression. And then the Ultimate Spider-Man. No, not that one. This Peter Parker was gifted with the black suit by Madam Web, but it's under her control, so that way you're not completely under the influence. It feels cheap to have the symbiote here, but honestly, I don't mind it, as it's one of the best comic book costumes ever, and just give me more of it. I think one of my main problems is that none of the Spider-Men really interact with one another, other than the final level. That's it. You're playing these games level by level, and that's fine, but it would have felt so much bigger in scope if they actually, spoke at least. Throw Ultimate Spider-Man in the Noir dimension or Amazing in 2099. They could have done so much more with this, and they really just did not go all the way. So I haven't played this game in over 10 years, so it felt like I was experiencing the game for the first time over again. I didn't realize how mature some of the story beats got. I don't know, it's hard to explain. At face value, you'd expect it to be some kid-friendly game, but Beanox doesn't really show any fear at all when it comes to showing the darker storylines. Like, let's take Scorpion. This is a completely studio created version of Scorpion, but they do something really cool with this. Instead of a man trapped in a scorpion suit, he's a cross-species monster who just wants to go back to being human. Still keeping the main theme and idea of the original character, but when Spider-Man tries to help him, he ends up dying in the process. It's not really powerful, but it's more shocking than anything. And I would love to show you, but my capture card glitched a lot of my footage. Oh my god, Vulture Noir. This is the best Vulture. This is so much better than anything we've ever gotten. This is better than Homecoming's Vulture. He is a cannibalistic monster, and Spider-Man has a personal vendetta against him.
I'll always call him the bastard who killed my uncle. And not just killed.
I wish they did more with this though, but I think they didn't just because it's directly tied to the comics. I don't think they wanted to mess with it in a certain way. And I would love to show you, but my capture card glitched a lot of my footage. Noir and 2099 all feel like they're leading up to their last villains with Osborn and Doc Ock respectively, but Amazing and Ultimate, they don't do this, and it's kind of disappointing. These are the 2 icons that people think of when they hear Spider-Man, outside of the movies of course. So having the inconsistency is really strange, especially with Amazing having some of the worst levels in the game and Ultimate having some of the best levels in the game. Well, Noir is still the best one, but Ultimate is up there.
But you have to admit,
With 4 different Spider-Men?
the one thing I know for sure,
Out of all of them,
I'm the best.
Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions is kind of an inconsistent masterpiece. Yeah, we don't see the Spider-Man interact with one another, but each one is written incredibly and feels unique. The game holds your hand for a big chunk of the campaign, but when you're allowed to swing freely, it makes you appreciate those moments a lot more. And yeah, they each might not have a unique ability, but they all look, play, and feel different, and it's easy to choose which one is your favorite to play. But think about it, from everything that I just explained to you, does this even sound like a good Spider-Man game? Spider-Man does best when he's in a free roam environment, not really so linear and restrictive, so why is this so highly regarded? It's the way that they portray the character, the way that each level in each universe is so different and diverse. It's the fact that even with the inconsistencies, it's still an incredible game, and it's just a simple game at its roots. I feel genuinely thankful being able to play this game, especially off the heels of the amazing Spider-Man No Way Home. It takes me back to a simpler time when the Spider-Verse wasn't such a pivotal point for the character, when the idea of multiple Spider-Man in one medium was an exciting idea, and now it's almost the standard. What a crazy 12 years it's been for Spider-Man. But what do you guys think of Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions? Have you played it? Let me know down below. Anyway, dudes and dudettes, be sure to click that like and subscribe button, and let me know down in the... My sequel senses are tingling. What is this? What the? Huh? What the? What is this? What the? Why is it? Major Pineapple.
Who's that? Who's talking?
It's the young you. Do you remember this game?
Yeah, of course I remember this game. It was really fun. Why is this important right now?
Because playing Shattered Dimensions and touching this, we broke the space-time continuum.
What do we do? How do we fix this?
We gotta play and review it side by side.
You got it. Let's do this, kid.